We'll call this June 22nd, 2023 meeting of the AMATS Policy Committee to order. The time is 1:31, and we'll do roll call. I'm sitting in on behalf of Mr. Bender, and he's not able to be here today, so we'll go through. You're here?
I am, come across Assembly District 2.
Mr. Boland?
He is excused.
Mr. Folhays?
Here.
Ms. Pokin?
I have not heard from Ms. Pokin.
We have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
With 3 committee members?
Yes.
All right. Aaron, would you please do the public involvement?
Of course. AMATS committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is invited to comment at each meeting. Business items are presented by staff or consultant on the item. After the committee has asked questions, the public is invited to formally comment. Each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic. A couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the committee, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. If you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. And I failed to introduce myself. I am Ben White, sitting in on behalf of Deputy Commissioner John Bender at the Department of Transportation. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have an approval of the agenda? Second. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Are there any objections to adopting the agenda as proposed? All right, not hearing any, then the agenda is approved. So item 4 on the agenda is approving the meeting minutes from the last meeting, May 25th.
Move to approve. I'll second that.
Any changes or discussion that need to be made to the meeting minutes from the last meeting? Any objections? Not hearing any. The May 25th, 2023 minutes are approved. Moving on to action items. The 2024-2025 Unified Planning Work Program. Aaron, will you be presenting this?
Yes, I will be. Okay, everyone. So before you is our UPWP. So just as a quick reminder, you have seen this before, but this is the document that outlines what staff will be doing for the next 2 years. So it outlines all the different tasks, so plans and programs, sub-area and special studies, the air quality work that Department of Health is helping us with, the data and modeling that traffic is helping us with, program administration and public involvement, and then public transportation is also included in there. So the draft came before you all in April for release for a 30-day public comment period, May 1st through June 1st. We did receive comments, and you will find those in the comment response summary on your iPad. We had 8 comments and responded to them. The Technical Advisory Committee reviewed the UPWP narrative and comment response summary and recommended approval with one change, and it was NeighborWorks Alaska had received a Reconnecting Communities grant, and they were asking for AMATS to include that grant into the UPWP. Staff had originally recommended not including that in there because we had to do some research on what it would mean to include that in there, because it's not an AMATS, it's not paying for AMATS staff or any time or anything. We did get confirmation from FHWA it has to be in the UPWP. And so we adjusted that comment to reflect that it needed to be in there based on approval of the Technical Advisory Committee. And you can see the language that we put in there that we're adding a small discretionary grant section of the UPWP at the very beginning that explains, what these grant opportunities are, and that we have to include them into our UPWP where it's required, and that AMATS is not responsible for the grant reporting or financial oversight of these grants. So we, just showing it in the UPWP. And then some language from the letter sent to us from NeighborWorks explaining who they are, that they received the grant, and then what they're going to be doing with that grant is in the document. Other than that, there were no changes to the UPWP, and the Technical Advisory Committee is recommending approval of the UPWP with that change for the discretionary grant. Actually, sorry, I was mistaken. There is one other change that was made. While we were getting ready to post this for the policy committee, it was noticed by the Public Transportation Department that there were some errors in their funding numbers in our budget document. So we corrected those errors and got the updated numbers, and they are reflected in the document there. The match numbers were correct. I just put in the incorrect federal numbers. So that has all been corrected and is before you today. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
No questions.
Do we have any comments from the public? And I'd like to remind them that they've got 3 minutes to speak on the action item.
Nothing from the public.
Okay. What is the will of the committee?
Just an approval in?
Yes, it would be approval of the narrative
So
and
we
budget.
move this forward.
Would you approve?
Approve it.
Second.
Are there any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Thank you.
We are on 5B, correct?
Yes, we are.
So this is transit safety targets. Aaron, are you presenting this one as well?
Yes, I will.
Correct. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. So part of what we've talked about with the committees before in the past is part of our requirements as an MPO is that we have to pass certain performance measures. Ones that have come before us in the past are travel time reliability, pavement target measures, safety target measures, a whole host of other target measures.
You know what? I really don't.
So, sorry, if you are online, please mute yourself. We'll mute you. Thank you. So before you today are the transit safety targets. So unfortunately, I kind of dropped the ball on this, and back in December, Public Transportation Department came forward with their safety plan and provided that information to the Technical Advisory Committee and the Policy Committee and said, here's the safety plan, here are the targets that we have that were approved by the Assembly at the time. And I missed the fact that we as AMATs needed to adopt our own targets. Well, we have two options. We can adopt our own targets, or we can support transit in their targets. So before you today are the transit targets, and the recommendation is to support transit in their targets. And I just wanted to kind of go through that really quickly, what the targets are. And I believe Jamie Acton is on in case you guys have any specific questions on them. So we have a target for the MBDO, which is motor bus direct operation, fixed route. DRPT, which is demand response purchase transportation, anchor rides. And then we have VPPT, which is van pool purchase transportation, so ride share. So they have safety targets set for each of those. And the recommendation from the Technical Advisory Committee and staff is to support transit in their safety targets. These will be updated yearly, I believe, just like the regular safety targets that are the next action item that'll be before the committee. So I'm here to help answer any questions, or Jamie is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
No questions from me.
Do we have any comments from the public?
The chair, to Aaron. So motor bus directional operation fixed route, is this pay for people mover routes or, I mean?
Yes.
Okay, so that's specific and then anchor rides. And so we're just looking at 7 injuries, 13 safety events. And so, all right. So those routes on which those live will be their targeted safety.
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
comments from the public online? Not seeing anything in the room.
Not seeing any online.
Okay,
I have one.
one more question?
Aaron, since AMATs didn't come up their own and we're adopting, would you have recommended any additional safety targets?
No.
Or is this- Okay.
No, because, AMATS doesn't actually do anything with transit other than support them, provide them funding or other things like that. We don't run the routes. We don't do anything with we don't run anything, or we're not responsible for anything. So I'm recommending we don't set any targets above and beyond what they, as the group doing everything, recommends.
Excellent, good enough for me. Thank you. No more questions, Chair.
There's no comments online?
Nobody has raised their hand or anything.
Just double checking. So what is the will of the committee?
Move to approve the transit safety targets.
Second. You got a routine for it.
Hey, I've done this before.
Are there any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Thank you.
I have no intention of going until midnight.
Good.
Action item 5C, this is the 2024 state safety targets. Aaron, you're presenting again.
Yes, okay, so similar to the transit safety targets I mentioned, AMATS is responsible for performance measures and targets for safety. So this is for, roadways, all public roadways. And there are 5 that we need to set a target for: fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, serious injury rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries combined. So this is one that we have been seeing since 2019 when all the requirements got put into place. So very similar to the transit targets, AMATS has 2 options: either set our own targets or support the state in their targets. Since 2019, AMATS has been supporting the state in their targets. However, I do know that past policy committee members and even some of the current ones who are not here right now have commented they would like to see AMATS start moving in the direction of setting our own targets. Because one of the things about these targets you see before you from the state, they are statewide numbers. So it's kind of factoring in everything statewide instead of just for our area. The reasons we haven't set targets yet for AMATS, it's a lot of work to set safety targets every year and to keep track of them and monitor them. And right now we don't have the data or the process in place to do that. Staff is working on that. That's part of what our safety plan is hoping to do, is get the information for us about what our safety numbers are in our area and see if we can start setting targets, because we have to set a baseline and then decide if it's a 5-year rolling average or 1-year average, or a 3-year average, or what do we want to do with it. So there's a long, complicated process, and staff is working on how to start addressing that. The recommendation right now from staff and the Technical Advisory Committee is to continue supporting the state in their targets until we reach the point where we can set our own as AMATS. So staff met with DOT and the other NPOs to review the data, which you see before you in the memo. And I just wanted to kind of go through the targets so you can kind of see where we're at with things. The targets started decreasing 2021, 2022, 23, but unfortunately there was a slight increase in the 24 targets, and the state has recognized that not all of the targets have been met over time and needs to be done. So that's part of where AMATS's safety plan will help as well, is it's all hands on deck to get the safety targets met, especially when it comes to the non-motorized safety issues. And then DOT provided some additional information regarding the actuals and projected. Let me pull up just quickly. So the green line includes the 5-year rolling average. I'm sorry, can you go back to that? Thanks. The green line is the 5-year rolling average. The white rows are actual numbers with the exception of columns for 22 through 24, projected numbers. So the white lines are used to calculate the rolling average. So that was a question that was asked at the Technical Advisory Committee. Hopefully that helped answer any questions in that regard. So the recommendation is to continue to support the state in their targets for 2024. Thank you.
Aaron. Any questions or comments from the committee?
I guess, for my information, that spike in annual fatalities in 22 and 23 is pretty significant. I presume the state has more detailed drill down data that we could look at if we wanted to see, if that was happening in Anchorage, if there's, an increase of 16 and it's all attributable to Anchorage, it might warrant accelerating specific safety targets. If they're spread across the state for some other reason, it may not be as much of a driving factor.
So just as a heads up for 22 and 23, those are projected targets. They're not the actual.
Okay.
Because the data is slow to get certified. So they are,
I guess, 23.
Yeah, so they're not caught up exactly. So, when we do maybe next year's, you'll see kind of what the actuals are for 22 and see where we are. And so I think this go around, the group was talking about maybe setting a more conservative target for this, a higher end target, just to ensure that we, can meet it. Because it looks like, looking at the projected numbers, it looks like we're 72 and the previous target was 70. So it was recognized that, may not meet it if we set it too low. So the recommendation was 75, understanding that there is a focus on safety. So, and part of what the safety plan looks at is will be looking at is what are the numbers for Anchorage? What can we do to help address them?
Thank you.
Sorry, I meant Anchorage, Chugach, Eagle River. It's not just Anchorage.
Any other questions, comment?
Historically, have we always projected 13 to 15% over the historical average?
I don't know. I don't have that data to say what our projected number has been. I just know for this go round, it's been increasing pretty substantially. When you look at the 5-year rolling average, that's why the number is so much higher than previous years.
Any comments from the public?
Nobody online.
Nobody online? Maybe here in the room? What is the will of the committee?
I'll move to approve.
Are there any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Aaron, are there any other action items that we need to address?
No, there are no other action items.
We will now move on to item number 6 on the agenda, project and plan updates. So item number 6A is transportation system management and operations plan. Aaron, will you be presenting on this as well?
No, you haven't. This is actually Christine Schutte will be doing this one.
Okay.
Hi, Christine Schutte, Public Involvement Coordinator and Planner for AMATS. I'm going to give you a brief introduction, and then the project manager from the consultant team is going to walk you through the presentation. So this is AMAT's first transportation systems and management and operations plan. And this is kind of coming to the end of this maybe 1.5-year process of collaboration. And so he's going to go over what the technical advisory group has come together and what recommendations can be put forward next time. Update our TIP projects and our MTP projects. So what solutions can AMATS look for some of these, and I'll let him go, Dennis, go into more detail about what those solutions are. Dennis?
Great, thank you, Christine. Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Mitchell. I am the consultant project manager with TKS Associates, working with Christine on developing this AMATS TISMO plan. Next slide, please. So for the, sorry, stop for a second. First question is, what is TISMO? besides, the acronym stands for Transportation System Management Operation, but what is that? And really, before I tell you what that is, let me just first say that TSMO can improve, or the goal of it is to improve the use of the existing infrastructure. So it's not like a huge capital project. It's more of like, how do we improve operations and coordination of activities, all things to try to make the best use of the infrastructure that you already have. And so it's a set of strategies to improve safety and provide reliable travel options for all users. And it primarily targets non-reoccurring congestion, which is congestion not regular daily traffic, but when there's incidents or other things. But it can also address reoccurring congestion, in other words, typical rush hour traffic. So non-recurring congestion is not always predictable. It can be caused by events such as weather, special events, crashes, and construction work zones. Next slide. And so these are just some examples of the type of strategies that are listed under the umbrella of TSMO. There's coordinated and optimized traffic signals, hard shoulder running, snowplow signal priority, transit signal priority, bicycle detection at signalized intersections, traveler information, smart work zone technology, traffic incident management, near miss detection, and comprehensive real-time snowplow data. So some of these you might recognize as really applicable in Anchorage, and some are just examples of things that are commonly employed in a TSMO strategy. Next slide. So during this process, we had an opportunity to survey the public during the transportation fair in January, where we asked, several, or I should say a number of people responded to either in person or online. But basically, over half of the people sort of understood what we were talking about, what TSMO is and what it can do, which is pretty good, in trying to explain concepts briefly to somebody that they understand what it is. The other thing that we wanted to find out is, what types of strategies that the general public would like to see or can support. So that was, really informative to us, as to, gave us some idea on what the public sees as issues, besides just the technical advisory committee or the working group that worked on this. Is, what's the public think? And so we were able to incorporate that into our planning. Next slide. This is just a really high-level overview of the process that we went through to develop the strategic implementation plan. We reviewed the existing conditions, existing plans, and interviewing key stakeholders. And from that, we developed a vision and goals and objectives and performance measures on what data you could look at, to measure, are you meeting those goals that you set out? Then we went through a SWOT analysis, which is looking at the strengths of what you do currently, some of the weaknesses, some of the opportunities, and some of the threats to or I would say that they're more hurdles to get there. And then we went through and developed a list of potential strategies from that effort. And then we developed screening criteria to help us evaluate and prioritize TSMO projects. And part of that was to look at the 2050 MTP project list to see which one of those are supportive of TSMO and which ones that maybe TSMO strategies could be combined with. In other words, instead of going out and making a separate project, you might add something to an existing project in the MTP that would further the TSMO effort. And so from that, we developed the list of projects and went through, again, our working groups and the technical advisory committee on helping us do that. And then we're now in the finalization of the implementation plan. Next slide. So I just wanted to tell you what the vision was. It was, that we came up with is to collaboratively manage, operate, and strengthen a year-round reliable transportation system that uses public resources efficiently and prioritize network and connected land use through the development of innovative high-impact solutions. Usually your vision statement is trying to incorporate all the thoughts you've got into, one or two sentences, which sort of gives you an idea of what it is we're trying to do. Next slide. And so from that vision, we developed these 5 goals: to improve safety, number 1, provide for efficient, reliable travel with a focus on non-reoccurring congestion. We wanted to enhance the user or the public experience with the transportation system, improve our resource management, and increase equitable access. Next slide. So the types of projects that we came up with, areas. One is new or enhanced services. And basically that's newer services that's aimed to provide system of operation information or to provide it more efficiently. An example of that would be establish a data sharing environment and agreements so that agencies can work together and share data, provide better able to provide information to the public. This is just one example of that. And so we came up with several projects that are more service oriented versus go out and build something. The second area was management and outreach activities. And that's really activities that support TISMO by developing staff knowledge and skills such as traffic incident management training and conferences. So is just one example of that. And an example here on the screen you'll see is enhanced construction coordination with the freight community. And that might be, you might put out general information about, roadway incidents or congestion that the freight community could see, but you could do targeted things that goes to the freight community and look at also trying to get information from the freight community that, so there's a two-way street there. But there's those type of activities to try to deal with coordination rather than, going out, like I said, building something. The third area that we looked at was studies and system improvement projects, which this could be where you go out and actually do some physical construction of something. And the example here is doing a feasibility analysis for intersection lighting. And the reason I say an analysis is there's probably a lot of areas that need more lighting. We'd go through a study to say, okay, where are the most critical locations based on incidents and other things, and then look to see how can we combine those with MTP projects. So if you're going out to build something, is to make sure you put lighting in that particular project that covers the area that's in question. So those are the type of things, rather than be very specific to say you're going to do this at this location. You want to make use of opportunities that arise. And so identifying places where you want to do these things and match them with other projects, a better way to coordinate and save money in implementation. So that's really just a high-level overview of the process that we went through in the project itself. So the end of this will be a document that shows the entire list of projects and all the process that we went through, and a better, more detailed explanation of what TISMO is and how that can benefit. And like I said, all those SWOT analysis and other things are all part of the all plan. So thank you very much.
Question.
Can say any questions from the committee?
Yes. So Dennis, where are you? Kent Coley is the municipal manager. Where are you in this process? Are you early in the development of the final plan and the timeline for seeing a final plan or a draft final?
So it's the final plan is drafted, and the technical working group all the professionals within the organizations, operating organizations within AMAT's area, are currently reviewing the text of that final document. So it is, waiting for any additional comments from them. We've had a meeting with them to share that with them, and we're giving them time to review and give us comments. But when we get all of their comments together and address those, then we will be publishing the final document. So it's very soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kevin Cross, Anchorage Assembly. Could you put in layman's terms, you say non-reoccurring congestion? Those are targeted areas. How would you?
So, so the difference between recurring and non-recurring. Recurring is what you see every day. You can expect that you're going to be in here or something there. The non-recurring means there's some incident, there's a weather event, there's something that says traffic is not functioning as you would normally see. So it's an unanticipated type of event. And so how do you deal with that? How do you provide information to the public? How do you work around it? How do you, detour people? All those types of things happen in non-recurring.
Thank you. And the second question I had to do with your slide 8, and you talked about outreach, and you gave an example of working or communicating with freight. I'm just curious, as we're researching these, do they do ride-alongs? Do they ride along with, the individuals moving freight from the port? Are we proactive, or are we waiting for a responsive? Or are we just waiting for them to tell us what they need?
Well, the idea is to do sort of an outreach to, the freight community to say, what information do you need? What's the best way to deliver that information to you, in a fashion that you can make use of. In other words, I'll just throw out some examples, not necessarily specific here, is to say, I'm going to say that there's a problem. The street has construction going on and trucks won't be able to get through there. And you publish that on a website, but a truck driving down the road doesn't know that. How do you in real time be able to tell, a truck that you're going to have to take a detour before it gets there? Those are the types of things. I'm just, giving you an example of what that could include.
Thank you.
So if I could, to build on Kevin's question then, so this, and I apologize, I'm pretty new to this effort. So this is not looking to respond to your question about ride-alongs, Kevin, this is not looking at specific issues that exist in Anchorage right now, like congestion at 36 on the Seward Highway or whatever. It's looking at how to inform the public and manage a broad range of events and situations and tools for doing that. It's not addressing specific situations that exist right now.
You're mostly correct. I mean, it can be specific. What we did here was to say we wanted to talk about strategies that would look at the type of problem that you just said, rather than the specific location of it. In other words, identify, if you've got this type of problem, here's the type of solutions that you want to lean into to solve it. So we didn't go through and say you need to do this particular thing at this particular location. We said this particular type of problem, these are the type of strategies to use to address that.
Thank you. So then, well, sorry, Kevin.
No.
So then presumably the freight community, for example, they would not be, they may have said something, but they wouldn't necessarily be offering feedback about this specific intersection, but they could be saying things like, iPhone alerts, some tool to advise us and inform us as the freight moving community would be a tool that we would find valuable. That's one of the things that you would have gained out of the outreach effort, I presume.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, for me. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public? And I'll just remind you, you've got 3 minutes. Nobody online? Not seeing any in the room. Next item on the
Thank you,
agenda.
Dennis.
What's that?
Sorry. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, 6B. I was using CRRSAA as the acronym for this, but I've heard CRRSAA. This is a discussion on what was some COVID-19 relief funding and an update. Aaron, are you giving us an update on this?
Yes, I will. My favorite update. Some bad news, unfortunately, but kind of good news. So we'll see how it goes. So as most of you remember, we as AMATS received about $11 million as part of the COVID relief effort that we could use on projects or any activities we needed. So that was programmed into the previous TIP and the current TIP. And we've been working diligently with the state to get these funds obligated in time. Unfortunately, Congress recently passed a debt ceiling bill, and as part of that debt ceiling bill, they clawed back any unobligated COVID funding nationwide, so not just targeting AMATS, but everyone. And AMATS had roughly 8.7 million of the COVID funding remaining. And so DOT and myself worked very diligently, mostly DOT, worked very, very diligently to get those funds obligated towards projects that AMATS already had, open and available. Because there was a lot of projects that were listed towards in the TIP that were having to wait for TIP Amendment 1 to be done, and there was just a lengthy process, and it wasn't going to get done on time because it basically had to get it all done before that funding was clawed back. And so, the commissioner, Central Region or Anchorage Field Office staff, Central Region staff, like everyone did a really, really large amount of work to get the funding obligated. They were successful in giving the all $8.7 million obligated. 6 million roughly went to a pavement project that is underway, and then the rest went to some other projects that we have in the TIP, like the safety funding to traffic for some of their traffic counts. And so that's awesome. Love the fact that it was. However, it leaves a number of projects kind of struggling now, because one of the benefits of the COVID funding is it didn't require any match. And so we put a lot of that towards planning projects that are typically very difficult to get matched for because the muni bond funds can't go towards that. There's very little kind of money just floating around to match a lot of the federal funds. So I just want to kind of go through the projects really quickly with you to let you know where we're at with it. So the first project that'll be impacted by this is the East 4th Avenue Signals and Lighting Project in FY24. There was 5.05 million in COVID funding programmed for that. That'll now be STBG. So there'll be roughly 460,000 in match required for that project. We've already alerted the technical advisory committee to this. So, Melinda is aware of this. I am sending her an email to meet with her and figure out what the plan is for this. The next project is 3rd Avenue Signals and Lighting. I just got notice today that they actually didn't need this extra hit, so there is no impact to that project. So good news. The next project is the interim 2050 update. It had 400,000 programmed and it'll need roughly 36,000 in match. So that is a planning project. So there'll be some discussions between AMATS and DOT on the muni on how to help fund that project. Then we have 2 corridor studies that'll be impacted in 24. The Tudor Road Corridor Plan and the Northern Lights Boulevard Benson Corridor Plans. They'll roughly need about 63,000 in match each. So next is the Complete Streets Plan in FY23. It had 450K, so it needs roughly 41,000 in match. AMAT staff has been working with Muni staff, UAA, the state to come up with in-kind match for that plan, and we are pretty much at the point to have everyone identified who will help provide the in-kind match for that. And so we'll be able to continue moving forward with that plan, which is very exciting. In-kind match is, an option, but it is a very difficult option to use. So in-kind match is where we don't have the cash match, but we identify people whose time will be spent helping to support the grant. So reviewing documents, providing data, and so we can capture their time and use that as match. Next one is the non-motorized inventory and mapping in FY24, 300,000 in CRRSAA funding, so it needs roughly 27,000 in match. At this time, we may be having to delay that project some because the in-kind match is pretty used up for the next couple of years. So I'm working diligently to figure out what to do with that project. The climate action plan in 23, a portion of that funding, about 250,000 of the 450,000 was CRRSAA funding. So a portion already needed match, so it's adding an additional 23K in match to that. So I'll be working with Chelsea Ward Waller on that to figure out where we can get the match for that in kind or in cash. And unfortunately, last little bit of bad news, as part of our certification review, FHWA commented that our congestion management process plan is outdated, and they expect to see that update happening ASAP. So I will be working on trying to add that project to the TIP as part of Amendment 2, and that will require roughly 18,000 in match. So I bring it up just because match has always been a struggle for us to get. And we are trying to reach out to everybody that we can to see what help they can provide to us in covering the match for it. So if you have any questions or ideas, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions, comments from the committee?
I guess a comment on Fourth Avenue signals and lighting. You know, the obvious approach there would be for us to bond for it, but that's a 2024, 2023, 2024 bond. So.
Yeah. Yep. So that's why I'm going to try and meet with Melinda as soon as I can to figure out what we need to help with, if anything, to get that going.
Aaron, do we have this list somewhere?
I can send you the list, but it's not, you'd have to look in the TIP and see which projects are CRRSAA funding and then know which ones were obligated at the time or weren't. So I can send you all a list with my rough napkin math of how much match is. And I say rough napkin match because some projects need contingency added to them that would increase the match requirement. So I can give rough numbers on there.
Any other questions, comments? Any comments from the public? Nothing online, nothing in the room. Thank you, Aaron. And I do want to say thank you to all the folks that worked hard to save that COVID relief funding. It was a heavy lift. I think there's a lot of folks burning some midnight oil on that. So I really appreciate everyone's effort on that. Aaron, are there any other project and plan updates that we need to go through?
Nothing on the agenda.
Okay. And it's looking like on item number 7, general information, there's nothing to cover today.
I don't have anything yet.
Okay. And then moving on to item number 8, committee comments. Is there anything from the committee that we want to discuss?
Yeah, I guess just a general comment. I was on the TAC for a long time. This, I think, is my second or third PC meeting, and you guys and your presenters always do a great job, and I think it's worth recognizing that.
Thank you.
The meetings are well organized, nice work on the agenda and the iPad tools. Just thank you.
Thank you very much.
Makes it easy for somebody who doesn't do their pre-work and watch the meetings.
Any other comments we want to share? Item number 9 on the list, public comments. Are there any comments from the public? Anything online? Nothing online? Nothing here in the room? Item number 10. Adjournment.
Second.
Any objections with adjourning? All right, I just want to thank everyone for their time and the effort that was put in today. So I really just want to say thank you. And with that, the time is 2:17. Meeting will adjourn.